Day 64, Desert Wanderings, Numbers 15, Deuteronomy 13 through 14, Psalm 95. Let's begin. Numbers 15. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, and you shall say to them, when you will have entered into the land of your habitation, which I will give you, and you make an offering to the Lord, as a holocaust or as a victim, paying your vows, or as a voluntary offering of gifts, or in your solemnities, burning a sweet odor to the Lord, whether from the oxen or from the sheep. Whoever immolates the victim shall offer a sacrifice of fine wheat flour, the 10th part of an ephah, sprinkled with oil, which shall have the measure of the 4th part of a hin. And he shall give the same measure of wine, poured out as libations, whether as a holocaust or as a victim. With each lamb and each ram, there shall be a sacrifice of fine wheat flour, of 2/10, which shall be sprinkled with 1/3 part of a hin of oil. And he shall offer the same measure, 1/3 part of wine, for the libation, as a sweet odor to the Lord. Yet truly, when you will offer, from the oxen, a holocaust or a victim, in order to fulfill your vow or for peace-offering victims, you shall give, for each ox, 3/10 of fine wheat flour, sprinkled with oil, which has the measure of 1/2 of one hin. And the wine, poured out as libations, shall be of the same measure, as an oblation of most sweet odor to the Lord. So shall you. For each ox, and ram, and lamb, and young goat, both natives and sojourner, shall offer sacrifices by the same rituals. There shall be one precept and one judgment, as much for yourselves as for newcomers to the land. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, and you shall say to them, when you will arrive in the land which I will give to you, and when you will eat from the bread of that region, you shall separate the first fruits to the Lord from the foods that you eat, just as you separate the first fruits of your threshing floors. So also shall you give the first fruits of your cooked grains to the Lord. And if, through ignorance, you neglect any of these things, which the Lord has spoken to Moses, and which he has commanded through him for you, from the day that he began to command and thereafter, and if the multitude will have forgotten to do it, then they shall offer a calf from the herd, a holocaust as a most sweet odor to the Lord, and its sacrifice and libations, just as the ceremonies ask, and a he-goat for sin. And the priest shall pray for the entire multitude of the sons of Israel, and it shall be forgiven them, because they did not sin willfully. Nevertheless, they shall offer incense to the Lord for themselves, and for sin, as well as for their error. And it shall be forgiven all the people of the sons of Israel, as well as the newcomers who sojourn among them, for it is the culpability of all the people through neglect. But if one soul will have sinned by not knowing, he shall offer a 1-year-old she-goat for his sin. And the priest shall pray for him, because he sinned unknowingly before the Lord. And he shall obtain pardon for him, and it will be forgiven him. One law shall be for all who sin by ignorance, as much for natives as for newcomers. Yet truly, the soul who commits any of these acts through arrogance, whether he is a citizen or a sojourner, because he has rebelled against the Lord, shall perish from among his people. For he has despised the word of the Lord, and he has nullified his precept. For this reason, he shall be destroyed, and he shall bear his iniquity. And it happened that, when the sons of Israel were in the wilderness, and they had found a man collecting wood on the day of the Sabbath, they brought him to Moses and Aaron, and to the whole multitude. And they enclosed him in a prison, not knowing what they should do with him. And the Lord said to Moses, Let that man be put to death, let the entire crowd crush him with stones, outside the camp. And when they had led him out, they overwhelmed him with stones, and he died, just as the Lord had instructed. The Lord also said to Moses, Speak to the sons of Israel, and you shall tell them to make for themselves hems at the corners of their cloaks, placing in them ribbons of hyacinth, so that, when they see these, they may remember all the commandments of the Lord, and they may not follow their own thoughts and eyes, fornicating in various ways. But instead they, being more mindful of the precepts of the Lord, may do them and may be holy to their God. I am the Lord your God, who led you away from the land of Egypt, so that I may be your God. Deuteronomy 13, 14. If there will have arisen in your midst a prophet, or someone who claims that he had seen a dream, and if he will have predicted sign and portent, and if what he has spoken happens, and he says to you, let us go and follow strange gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them, you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. For the Lord your God is testing you, so that it may become clear whether or not you love him with all your heart and with all your soul. Follow the Lord your God, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and listen to his voice. Him shall you serve, and to him shall you cling. But that prophet or forger of dreams shall be put to death. For he has spoken so as to turn you away from the Lord your God, who led you away from the land of Egypt, and who redeemed you from the house of servitude, and so as to cause you to wander from the way that the Lord your God has entrusted to you. And so shall you remove the evil from your midst. If your brother, the son of your mother, or your own son or daughter, or your wife who is in your bosom, or your friend, whom you love like your own soul, were willing to persuade you secretly, saying, let us go, and serve foreign gods, which neither you nor your fathers have known, gods from any of the surrounding nations, whether these are near or far away, from the beginning even to the end of the earth, you should neither agree with him, nor listen to him. And your eye should not spare him so that you take pity on him and conceal him. Instead, you shall put him to death promptly. Let your hand be upon him first, and after that, let the hands of all the people be sent forth. He shall be killed by being overwhelmed with stones. For he was willing to draw you away from the Lord your God, who led you away from the land of Egypt, from the house of servitude. So may all of Israel, upon hearing this, be afraid, so that nothing like this will ever be done again. If, in one of your cities which the Lord your God will give to you as a habitation, you hear someone say, the sons of Belial have departed from your midst, and they have persuaded the inhabitants of their city, and they have said, let us go, and serve strange gods, which you have not known. Inquire carefully and diligently, seeking the truth of the matter. And if you find that what was said is certain, and that this abomination is a work which has been perpetrated, you shall promptly strike down the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword. And you shall destroy it, along with all the things that are in it, even the flocks. Then all the household goods which are there, you shall gather together in the midst of its streets, and you shall set fire to these, along with the city itself, so that you may consume everything for the Lord your God, and so that it may be an everlasting tomb. It shall no longer be built up. And there shall remain nothing of that anathema in your hand, so that the Lord may turn from the wrath of his fury, and may take pity on you, and may multiply you, just as he swore to your fathers. When you will heed the voice of the Lord your God, keeping all his precepts, which I am entrusting to you this day, so that you may do what is pleasing in the sight of the Lord your God. Be sons of the Lord your God. You shall not cut yourselves, nor make yourselves bald, because of the dead. For you are a holy people, for the Lord your God. And he chose you, so that you may be a people particularly his, out of all the nations on earth. You shall not eat the things that are unclean. These are the animals which you ought to eat, the ox, and the sheep, and the goat. The stag and the roe deer, the gazelle, the wild goat, the addax, the antelope, the giraffe. Every beast which has a hoof divided into two parts, and which also chews the cud, you shall eat. But those which chew over again, but do not have a divided hoof, you must not eat, such as the camel, the hare, and the hyrax. Since these chew the cud, but do not have a divided the hoof, they shall be unclean to you. The pig also, since it has a divided hoof, but does not chew over again, shall be unclean. Their flesh shall not be eaten, and you shall not touch their carcasses. These ye shall eat out of all that dwells in the waters. Whatever has fins and scales you shall eat. Whatever is without fins and scales you shall not eat, for these are unclean. All the clean birds you shall eat. You shall not eat those that are unclean, such as the eagle, and the griffin, and the osprey, the crane, and the vulture, and the kite, according to their kind, and any kind of raven, and the ostrich, and the owl, and the gull, and the hawk, according to their kind, the heron, and the swan, and the ibis, and the sea bird, the marsh hen, and the night raven, the pelican and the plover, each in their kind, likewise the crested hoopoe and the bat. And anything which crawls and also has little wings shall be unclean, and shall not be eaten. All that is clean you shall eat. But whatever has died of itself, you shall not eat from it. Give it to the sojourner, who is within your gates, so that he may eat, or sell it to him. For you are the holy people of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat in the milk of his mother. Each year you shall separate the tithes out of all your crops which spring forth from the earth. And you shall eat these in the sight of the Lord your God, in the place which he will choose, so that his name may be invoked there, the 10th part of your grain and wine and oil, and the firstborn from the herds and your sheep. So may you learn to fear the Lord your God at all times. But when the way in the place which the Lord your God will have chosen is further away, and he will have blessed you, so that you are not able to carry all these things to it, you shall sell them all, so as to turn them into money, and you shall carry it in your hand, and you shall set out for the place which the Lord will choose. And you shall buy with the same money whatever pleases you, either from the herds or from the sheep, and also wine and liquor, and all that your soul desires. And you shall eat in the sight of the Lord your God, and you shall feast, you and your household. As for the Levite, who is within your gates, take care that you do not abandon him, for he has no other portion within your possession. In the 3rd year, you shall separate another 10th part of all the things which spring forth for you at that time, and you shall store it within your gates. And the Levite, who has no other portion or possession with you, and the sojourner as well as the orphan and the widow who are within your gates, shall approach and eat and be satisfied, so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the works of your hands which you shall do. Psalm 95. A canticle of David himself, when the house was built after the captivity. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Sing to the Lord and bless his name. Announce his salvation from day to day. Announce his glory among the Gentiles, his miracles among all peoples. For the Lord is great, and greatly to be praised. He is terrible, beyond all gods. For all the gods of the Gentiles are demons, but the Lord made the heavens. Confession and beauty are in his sight. Sanctity and magnificence are in his sanctuary. Bring to the Lord, you natives of the nations, bring to the Lord glory and honor. Bring to the Lord glory for his name. Lift up sacrifices, and enter into his courts. Adore the Lord in his holy court. Let the entire earth be shaken before his face. Say among the Gentiles, the Lord has reigned. For he has even corrected the whole world, which will not be shaken. He will judge the peoples with fairness. Let the heavens rejoice, and let the earth exult, let the sea and all its fullness be moved. The fields and all the things that are in them will be glad. Then all the trees of the forest will rejoice before the face of the Lord, for he arrives. For he arrives to judge the earth. He will judge the whole world with fairness, and the peoples with his truth.